I was so. We are live. I am alive. We're live.
One.
Heard. Okay. Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
All right. Welcome to the Most High Show, made by and for people in recovery. A show about recovery, spirituality, and being human. Our mission is to provide impactful, community-driven media that informs, empowers, and inspires positive change. Real people, real stories, real life. This is the Most High Show. All right. Today we're joined by Derek Little, sober since 19, coming up on 4 years of clean and sober, the youngest certified peer specialist in addictive disease in Georgia, and now a CARES peer workforce coordinator, training recovery coaches across the state. Thank you for joining us tonight, Derek.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Well, why don't you give like a brief introduction, a little bit about who you are, a little bit about like your day-to-day. What is the life of Derek?
I would say mostly about it is that I started working in treatment about like a year after coming into recovery, and so I worked at a treatment center called Southeast Addiction Center, and I worked there for about a year and a half, and then I transitioned from that after coming into recovery at 19, and then really I'll back up for a second, but like a little bit about where I started was like being like 10-13 and being like 10-13 in the hospital and kind of
Sorry guys, there is stuff happening off camera that is disrupting the show.
Our life source, the fan, has been knocked down. It's 1,000 degrees in the
It's very hot in
studio
the
for
studio
reference,
tonight.
and that fan, if it doesn't get lifted, I might explode live on camera.
Okay. So sorry, back to being 19.
I'm sorry. So all right. Okay, so being 19, like coming into recovery, for one, I didn't really like have the desire to get sober at 19. It was more so my parents kind of forced me into it before I had the realization that this is what I have to do if I wanted to stay in recovery and be in recovery. And like my first initial thing was being, let's say like 10-13 in the hospital. And while I was there, I had this moment when I looked in the mirror and like didn't know what was looking back at me anymore. I had that feeling of just being hopeless. And I remember one thing that was so specific about that is that my nurse who was watching over me, she happened to be 30 years plus in recovery.
Wow.
And I like to say that's a coincidence or that's a godcidence. I don't know.
A
But
godcidence.
but what I did like about that is I said, "What do you have any advice for me?" And she told me to just get a 12-step sponsor. And like that was like the first moment where like I went on moving forward. So the first thing I did when I got to treatment center is I walked in, and the first lady I saw, I said, "Will you be my sponsor?" And like that, I was still get a little bit of a hold of things, a little bit. It was kind of like from there. And I think early on, like I remember I had like this shift kind of too, where like I kind of changed from doing like my AA journey or my 12-step journey as doing it for somebody else like my parents to now I'm doing it for myself. And when I had that moment, it was like my grandfather, he took me out to eat, and he was like, "Hey man, I just think you're too young to get sober. You're 19 years old. You can't get sober, man. You're too young, man. You just need to take it back a notch." I'm like, I don't know what taking it back a notch means. But I was
It's
just
like there's
yeah.
notches? Y'all got notches?
So I was like, I don't know what that means. I did one thing though, is like I was in the treatment center at the same time. And so I was like, all right, cool. So do I want to listen to what he's telling me and saying, take it back a notch? Or do I want to listen to these people that are in these recovery rooms that are talking about, recovery? And I was like, it was like that moment where like I took some advice and went the other way. Because I'd seen the way my grandfather was for his whole life. His whole life, he was an alcoholic. My family didn't respect him. Nobody liked him in the family. He didn't have the respect. And so did I want to go that way or did I want to go these other way? Because these people in recovery are talking about everything that they were looking for in addiction and in the drugs and the alcohol they had found in recovery. And I was like, oh, I want that. So I was like, let me see what this thing has to talk about.
Well, that's really cool that you were able to kind of, as one of the sayings go, like play the tape forward on both of the paths that were presented in front of you, you know, because I, unfortunately, I met a 19-year-old in recovery back when I was 17, and I was the voice of, there's no way you need recovery. You're 19. Like, you're just partying because you're in college and having fun. Like, it's totally fine. And then it was not totally fine. And then, you know, I became a young person in recovery after that as well. But yeah, being young in recovery is very difficult. The first time I tried to get sober, I was 21. So still at least a little older than you were, which blows my mind. But people are so often like, oh, wow, like, you're lucky you got it young. Or it's the other, like, oh, how are you, but you're so young, you know. But when it was like an addict like me, I'm like, I didn't have time to get sober. I'm like, people are dropping left and right. Like, the stuff that's out there is not, like, you get a bad batch of something, you're done. You don't get the chance to recover. And so, like, it was literally like when I stopped wanting to die was when I was like, okay, I gotta, you know. But it's like, oh, you're so lucky. That annoyed me for so long.
Yeah, I've heard that same thing a lot, where it's just like, oh man, it's so great you got this thing. If I would have got it when I was your age. And it's like, I always say to them though, is like, you know, because it'd be the older people that'd be like, man, I wish I would have got this when I was your age. And I just say to them, like, well, think about when a tree was planted. You know, the best time to plant a tree, and hopefully I get it right when I say this, but the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The even better time to plant a tree is right now. And that's kind of like where it's at. It's like I trying to just uplift the same person that's like coming to me and saying like, hey, in this. And then there's a whole thought of, you know, kind of like being in recovery, coming in young, and then looking at people in the room and realizing they didn't look like me. And, you know, like, that was the whole thing, because I came into the rooms of recovery in the 12-step meetings, and what I saw in the 12-step meetings was old white men, and that's all I could see. And, like, I didn't see anything else. I didn't see somebody that related to me. And now I say this is like, I identify my way in, and then I compare my way out. So I had to find something, because I had the old timers who were coming around the room. They would say to me, they'd be like, I spilled more liquor than you drank. And you know what I say to
you
them?
Want some more?
Exactly. So I'd say to them, I'd be like, well, look, if you ain't spilled so much, maybe you would have got here quicker. Ooh. You know, like, you got to hit them with a little something. Nah. and it's just like stuff like that, like, where I had to like find my own like place. And then it came to a point where finding my own people in recovery.
Yeah.
You know?
It is so interesting, like, that experience with some older people in recovery, how there's like polar opposites, right? Like, you have the people who are like, wow, you're so young, like, good for you for getting it young. And then you have the people who like gatekeep their recovery. And it's like, oh, you know, with the whole, like, I drank, or I, whatever the hell it was. I get my words backwards all the time, but it's like, why are you trying to overqualify yourself? Like, we're in the same place. Like, why? Okay, so I don't want what you have, but like, shouldn't you want me to want what you have? Like, you're I call them bitter old bitches. That's
that's right.
I'll talk to you know, my sponsor and be like, I just don't want to end up a bitter old bitch. I don't ever want to be so set in my recovery that there's no room for the next person to have their recovery. You know, they can recover the way they need to, when they need to. You know, just because I was 21 and 22 when I was getting sober doesn't mean, you know, just because this person's older that they can't get it, or just because the person's younger that they don't need it. Like, everyone's path looks different, and that includes where and when and how it starts. But that's really cool that you were able to, like, you know, be nice in response. I was not. You're a better man than me. But Josie, do you relate to, you know, walking in and being like, how am I supposed to relate with these people?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, for me, I was 30. When I got sober, like, when I actually finally got serious, I was 31.
So old.
I know, so old. 31, and I turned 32 in treatment, but I didn't get much of like the age thing, because I look youthful.
No, you don't.
Shameless plug. I'm aging perfectly. No, but what I got a lot of was, the first time I ever went into a recovery meeting was, I was already 30, and it was old white men. And one of the gentlemen was sharing a story, and it was, I could not relate at all. I was just like, what is he even talking about? But I knew I wanted to get sober. What I dealt with more so was people saying, what are you doing here? why are you here? Because you don't look like you are an addict. You don't look like you're an alcoholic. I'll never forget one guy said to me, I was sweating bullets in this on this couch when I was in detox. And I was like shaking, but I needed to get out of that room. And he was like, you're pretty fine for a wino. And I'm like, what is this? Where am I? But yeah, I dealt with a lot of that of like, you don't look like,
you're too pretty to be an addict.
Well, I don't know. You don't look like you're an addict. I'm like, I don't know what am I supposed to look like. There was that, and there was also this, like, being a mom. How can you be an alcoholic and have kids? Like, how do you? Why don't you think about your children? Don't you think about your children and how that affects them? Like, just think about your kids and don't drink. And it's like, I would kill for my children, but I can't get sober for them. I can't get sober. I couldn't. And then also, being a woman, there's already there's not very many, at least like admire, not very many women's groups, but the majority of the rooms are men. So then, like, finding women that I could relate to and finding women of color, I've, established like a pretty solid group of women. One of them's in the studio audience. But yeah, like meeting other Hispanic women that are younger, and meeting mothers. I sponsor women that are mothers, and that's just for me that's where I felt like I couldn't relate for a long time. I wasn't meeting a lot of people that were single moms, that culturally it's like, as a woman you're not supposed to be an alcoholic, like, get it together, like, how could you, how dare you, this is a women's role. Only men are alcoholics. Mm-hmm. So yeah, for me, I had to stop looking for the differences. I had to stop looking for the differences because I kept finding all these differences. Mm-hmm. Men, white, old, too young, When I stopped looking at the differences that are sort of relating to people's stories, slowly but surely, I started making more and more connections, Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And what other kind of stereotypes did you face coming in? You're 19, babyface Nelson over here.
Thanks.
Like how long did it take for you to be able to kind of make that separation of, like, just because these people are having these preconceived ideas about me or making these assumptions about me, like, that I still belong here?
I would say it like had to deal with like kind of like, as I'm saying, like my people, and like I found that and more so in like the young people recovery conventions, and I got to go to like young people recovery conventions, and it was centered specifically on that, and like being around those types of people really made me feel like that sense of belonging, because I think that's what I was looking for the whole time, was just a place of where I can just lay my hat and I can just be me.
Yeah.
And I found that in recovery, and like that's kind of like what changed, like where we were able to laugh about like some of the things we tried to do to like quit drinking, and like we could laugh about those things, and then having like those belly gut laughs in recovery, like those gut level laughs that you have, and then finding that place where I kind of belonged. I really stuck around where like I would go to like this 12-step meeting like every night, and I would go there every night. Every time I went there, I'd leave the meeting early and I'd come late. And like one thing that I did was like I'd smoke my cigarette, and then I'd walk to my car and I'd cuss underneath my breath. Nobody wanted to talk to me, before like ever putting my hand out there and saying to somebody, hey, how you doing? My name's Derek. Right. Mm-hmm. And so like it was completely just like that until I remember some guys invited me on a whitewater rafting trip. And when I went on this whitewater rafting trip, we stayed overnight, we camped, and it was like the best fun I ever had in recovery. Because that was the thing I thought about when I got sober, was like, there's no more fun. Like, I'm done having fun in recovery. And I can think about like a few months after that whitewater rafting trip, I was leaving the meeting, smoked my cigarette, and I was walking to my car. And one of the guys who invited me on that trip looked at me, and he smiled at me, and he said, it's always a pleasure to see you. And like what he did for me in that moment was like I had this realization that what he did for me, I wanted to do that for somebody else. Like that's kind of been like the theme for me. It's kind of like that joy in that moment, just like that, I've been able to turn that over and bring that to somebody else. More so, instead of like the fact of being at a point where somebody can guide me through a situation. Maybe I'm going through a situation right now that I can be able to guide somebody else through that same situation. It kind of changes just a little bit.
Yeah.
and why I'm doing it. And I think that's where I really find that belonging is, when I'm being of service, doing stuff like that, all those types of things, it's kind of like where it is.
Yeah, I remember there was a little while back I was like really struggling with something, and I talked to another sober woman about it, and it like I was shaming myself for what I was going through, how I was feeling about it, like all the things. It's like I just can't pull out of it. And she was like, "Well," she's like, "You will, and when you do, somebody's going to need you. Someone out there is going to need a you to get them through what they're going through." And then I was like, "Oh, damn." Because like there's one person I've known my entire recovery who like every time I'm going through something that I feel like is so unique and disgusting and I don't want to talk to anybody about it, I call her up, and then she was like, "Girl, me too." And then she tells me a very relatable, like very eerily relatable story to the situation where I'm like, are we living the same life? But it's so comforting to being like, okay, I don't hear shame in her voice when she's talking about it. I don't hear embarrassment. I don't hear, anything negative that I'm feeling about myself in these situations. She's just kind of like, yeah, this happened. And she's like, and I'm still working through it. She's like, I'm not on the other side, but when I get there, I'll let you know how I got there. But it's just kind of nice to know that it's possible. Like, okay, it's possible to live with this. It's possible to live through this. Hopefully it will be through one day, but I can live with it. And then, and next thing you know, there's someone calling who's going through the exact same unique situation. And I'm just like, unfortunately, I'm an expert on this topic. Let's go.
Yes, that's like moments when you're like, God, come on,
Yeah. It's like, here's the purpose for that. That was so not fun, but here we are.
Yeah.
So in recovery and now working in recovery.
Yes. So
what was that transition like?
It was more so it was different from basically being in recovery. So I think I found like a love for recovery when I was working at the treatment center. And then out of nowhere, I'd been working there for about a year and a half. I'd found a joy working there. I enjoyed working with the clients, and it was impactful. Like I saw I had some value and I had something to offer. And one of the dudes who knew me in like my early recovery, he met me when I was like 2 months sober, and he ran into me at a 12-step meeting. And when he ran into me, he was like, "Hey man, what do you think about coming and doing this recovery coaching thing?" And I had no idea what he was talking about. Like I was like, no thing whatsoever. And I remember, so I like looked up online what their website was. It's called the Georgia Council for Recovery. And I looked up their website and I was like, okay, so I'm like, what do they do? So I went to one of their workshops, but their workshop was about how to get trained. So while I was at this workshop, I saw this dude and like, all right, I'll say this quick little story. But like, so I saw this dude and he basically was like answering questions and stuff, and like it was at this workshop, so we were like learning about what recovery coaches do in the state of Georgia, different stuff like that. And I just didn't like this dude. Like this dude was answering questions. I don't like the way this dude was talking. I don't like the way this dude looked. I just did not like this dude. I had a problem with this dude, and I was like, you know what? They said take a 10-minute break. We take a 10-minute break. Something told me go up and go and talk to him. So I get up, I go and talk to him. When I start to talk to him, he's like, "Hey man," I'm asking him questions about him, but it's really about me while I'm up there. But like I'm asking him questions about him. I'm like, "Hey, what things in that?" And he's just like, "Yeah, man, I've got 7 different products in Walmart. God is maybe the person I was always meant to be. I feel like I was meant to do this. I feel like I've become the person God meant for me to be." And then he said he'd been sober for the last 15 years. And I was like, yo, this dude was like the embodiment of everything I've ever wanted to be. And like, it was so cool that I would have missed out on a cool opportunity. And I think about that as not a tribute of what Derek usually does. That's a tribute of what my recovery and what being in my pathway has helped me with. Like, that's not what I regularly do. Derek is shy. He'll go home and be like, "Oh man, like
nobody wants to talk to me.
Nobody wants to talk to me."
Exactly, right? And like, that's exactly what it was. And so it was kind of like moments like that where I was able to share that story where like God winks that I'm on my way. And I got to kind of like start my new job. Whereas I eventually, about a week after that workshop, I got a call saying that, would you like to come and work in the emergency department as a recovery coach?
So what is a recovery coach?
Okay.
Oh boy.
So I will explain it like this. So it's better if I tell this story because this story kind of explains what it kind of does. And it's like I see these girls. I would see a girl or a guy, and they came into the hospitals in North Georgia Medical Center. So they would come into those hospitals, and they would have either drugs or alcohol in their system, and they would have either overdose or anything like that. They could be there for another medical reason, but I would just see them anyways if they had drugs or alcohol in their system, and they'd like to be seen by a coach. So if they'd like to be seen by a coach, the nurse would go and do like a intake, debrief, be like, hey, are you interested in a coach seeing you? So I came in there one time, and there was this girl. She was in the hospital. She had basically had an overdose. Her and her boyfriend overdosed at the same time. Her boyfriend ended up dying on her lap. And when he died on her lap, it cut off the blood circulation to her legs. Her kidney shut down. She went into kidney failure. And so now she's been put on dialysis. So I come into the emergency room, and I see her, and I'm like, hey, are you interested in recovery? She's like, I don't got a drug problem. And it's like, y'all get that. And it's like, she was like, I don't have a drug problem. And I was like, okay, so what do I do? So I check with my manager, and she was like, keep seeing her. So I would see her like 2 or 3 times a week. I come into the emergency room, and I see her, and we talk about ghosts, we talk about aliens. Shoot, at one time we literally listened to Taylor Swift in the hospital room, and it's like we're doing stuff like that, right? And it's like I look back on that experience is like what they say in my 12-step home group is be a living example because you might be the only example anybody ever sees. And like that's kind of what I felt like I was for her in that moment was I felt like I was just an example. Like she'll know that's what recovery is. Recovery isn't forcing it down my throat. Recovery isn't telling me I have to do this. Recovery is somebody who's just showing up and just trying to be a friend. And like that's what it was. So it's kind of like we would see people in the hospitals, we'd see them over and over. Fast forward, I after she gets discharged, I try and reach out to her, no luck. Then I get a message about 5 months after that, and it's her. And she's like, hey, I really appreciate all the time you spent with me in the hospital room, and I was wondering if you'd be able to help me with our recovery. And it was like this full circle moment that I got to like experience that, where somebody was just like, hey, they're like, I got to see their full circle moments. So it's kind of like that. Like the recovery coaching is more so different than, it's more so like peer-led. So I don't walk into a room and tell somebody, hey, you need to go to these meetings, you need to do this pathway, you need to go and do this. I'm not telling you what to do. Because what does a clinician ask sometimes? And clinicians are great. What does a clinician ask? They say, hey, what's wrong with you? As a recovery coach, we start the conversation with what's right with you. And that's kind of like where it starts from there, right? And so it can be at the same sense of when we're asking those questions and like, and now this, I don't force recovery. Like there's one guy seen in the hospital every week, and we just talk about his coin collection, or we talk about this and that. And like it was just building that connection over and over, building that connection. And the one thing that he described to me, and that I really got from that was that he asked me at one point in time, he was like, well, Derek, I see you're sober and you're clean. So what did you do? And then you know what I did? I lit up like a Christmas tree, because then I get to like talk about what I want to talk about now. And it's like that's kind of like what it is more so it's peer led. The person knows what's best. The answer lies within them. It's not within me. It's not within the doctors, because they've already heard and been told what to do. The recovery coach is kind of like a guide. When I brought up that whitewater rafting trip, it's kind of like that whitewater rafting trip. It's like the guide. That guide is like the peer recovery coach. He's in the raft with you. Whereas instead of he's not across the table from you, he's in the thing with you. And that's kind of like where it is like that's kind of what coaching does. Is it puts it where it's next to each other. We're all equal. We're doing the same thing. I'm trying to guide you wherever you feel like you need to go. Instead of me telling you exactly what worked for me, because what worked for me at the end of the day might not work for you.
Right.
It's going to be completely different. I can tell you what worked for me, and that's all good and dandy.
Yeah.
I can't force that on somebody.
Yeah. I think that was, being able to just meet people where they are, like truly meet people where they are. Because I feel like that's like something that gets said a lot. You just got to meet people where they are. And it's like, okay, but how?
Yeah.
Like, but what does that mean though? Because a lot of times people will be like, oh, you gotta yell at them. You gotta tell them where they need to be. You gotta get on their ass. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, if anyone did that to me when I was in early recovery, I actually told that to one of the first people that approached me when I was new the second time. I was like, if you ever tell me what I have to do, you will never see me again.
Yeah, I was gonna say I love the way you put that, because I mean, we all know when somebody tells us what we need to do, we don't want to do it. I remember having sponsors that would be like, well, what you need to do is, and what you need to, and it's like, that just sounds like a whole bunch of like, blah, 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 whatever. Like, it's just, it just sounds like a bunch of work. You're just kind of trying to give me some busy work, or, you know, you need to do it this way. And it's like, this is, you know, this is a one size fits all. It's worked for years, so just do it this way. And it's like, well, it doesn't work for me because like my life is different. I know, you know, it that was like really difficult for me. And I think you put that great. I was in the hospital once, and the nurse came into the room when I was there, and she was like, she just very gently brought up like my drinking, and she just was like, you know, there's like apps and there's pamphlets, and here's my number, and if you ever feel like talking, here you go. And she didn't like push anything on me.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
That reminds me of one time when you and I were working in the office together, like years ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, because you had opened up to me. We're in the middle of work, mind you. It's very slow. There aren't like very many people there.
And I'm a operations manager, and she's an employee who's been there for less than 90 days, and I'm opening up about my alcoholism.
Yeah. We bonded over some like meth story, and I was like, this is my person. Because that was the only job that I've ever had that I have not been open about my recovery, because I felt like it was going to be like weaponized against me there. But she figured it out, and she like opened up to me. And so like, and she asked me about, you know, how I recover, and I got really excited. I'm like, this is what I do. I'm like, but there's also other things that I do that aren't a part of that. And then she asked me more questions about that, and like I just remember like blowing up her phone with like so many different podcasts, and I was like, I like these ones, like this one is more spiritual, this one is more science-based, this one's really funny about fucked up shit, like, and I was like, and then I told her about this podcast. I'm like, you should come. Like, I got really excited. She didn't come for a long time.
I was scared,
but it was just cool to be able to like, I remember I left work that day, and I called my sponsor, and I was like, you'll never guess what I did with my manager. I'm like, this was so cool. I'm like, I don't know if I'll ever see her outside of work. But to be able to have that moment of like, it just felt like sharing humanity.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like, because you for me, it was like a seed was planted. You know, I'm like, whoa, first of all, yes, I was right. I spotted her. But number two,
Like that junkie.
you know, because I had my experiences prior were so much of like, you need to, and you were just like, you know, I was like, oh, there's like a whole world of other things, and like, she's young, and she's, you know, happy, and like normal, and she does fun things, and she has this much time, and you know, yeah, I would reach out like when I was intoxicated sometimes, or was really hungover, but I stayed in communication with her. And like when I was feeling, you know, I felt like I had no one at some points. Like, who can I talk to about the fact that it's like, I want to stop drinking, but I literally can't. I end up back at the liquor store, and I end up drinking again. I don't know who to talk to about this, because everyone is saying to me, well, you just need to stop. Like, why can't you just stop? You know, and so you know, even if it was like little conversations or whatnot, it just made me, it showed me it was possible. It was the same thing like seeing you work at Southeast. I was like, this guy is young and he's happy. And I remember we'd be like in groups with the door closed, and you'd be laughing, and people would be like, oh, why is he laughing? What's so funny? And I'm like, I love that he is always so joyful and so happy. Like, it's possible to recover and actually be freaking happy and like love your life and love what you do, and you can be young, you know. So I mean, like, I'm sitting with two people here that were like huge inspirations for me in my early recovery.
Oh
yeah.
I think that was like definitely for me is like what I try and do for the next person is like make this thing look attractive. You know, like it's gotta look
Adjust
attractive.
coat.
You know,
that
like,
was
attractive.
crazy.
So like it's like when I came in, like I saw all the people in the recovery rooms. They were all laughing and smiling, And like, if they weren't laughing and smiling, would I really have like wanted to stick around? Like, I wanted to find something better than what I had. And y'all said y'all had what I had, and now you don't have it anymore. Now you guys get what I'm saying. But like, you have something like completely different today. And like, it seemed like there was so much joy. Like I got to do like so many cool things. Like I got to take a trip to San Francisco, and got to go and see like the Golden Gate Bridge. And like got to take a 4-mile bike ride across the Golden Gate Bridge all the way into Sausalito. And like, I got to do something like that. Like, that was something I got to do in recovery. I wouldn't have done that. And like, I wouldn't have found so much joy in doing things like that. And like, recovery conventions have like pushed it where now I go out and I get to travel like the world. Like, I've been able to go to Vancouver.
I was about to ask. I was like, "Did you go to Canada?"
I did. I went. I went.
Like
to
everybody
Canada.
and their mom went to Canada.
I had to go, and it's like when I was there, like we had a great time. It was, you know what they did? They did like a flag ceremony. It was so beautiful. They had all the 90 countries that were represented, and then they did what me and some friends did. Is we decided there was a rave, so we went to a local rave, and we were like up till like 4 a.m. partying in a rave. Like, I didn't think I'd be doing that sober, and like this is like so like mind blowing to me, and like this is the type of stuff that we're talking about. Like, I get to live life today.
Yeah.
Like, I was just talking about that. Like, I'm not in recovery, so I can go to these recovery meetings. I'm in recovery, so I can go and live my life today.
Mm-hmm. That's what, you know, I've heard a lot from people with a lot more time than I do. Or like, you know, you didn't get sober to live a small life. Like, you got sober to live a big life. Because something you had said earlier tonight was that you were afraid that you wouldn't have fun anymore when you got sober. And I thought the same thing, which was wild because I was homeless, and so I'm like, this is not fun. I'm like, what do you mean I'm gonna stop having? I'm not currently having fun. Like, I'm not doing anything. I remember distinctly before I got sober, I remember finding out the band Asking Alexandria was gonna come to town, and I like Asking Alexandria was one of my first loves, like with like metalcore music. And I was like, I've always wanted to see them. I love them so much. Like, they're coming to town. I'm going to go. And I was too scared to go. And so I didn't. And I got sober around the same time too. And then my sister-in-law, she hit me up and she was like, hey, NF is coming to town. I'm going to go. Do you want to come with me? And mind you, I had seen him way back in the day in like 2014 at some like tiny church in Canton, like back before everything blew up. And I was just like, I wanted to go so bad, but I was so scared. And now I'm like, well, I don't have substances anymore. So I'm like, I absolutely cannot go. I'm not going to be able to relax enough. And so like all I wanted more than anything, I just wanted to go to shows. I just wanted to enjoy live music. And I was so scared. It didn't matter if I had stuff in my system, because then I wasn't remembering anything.
Yep.
And then I didn't have anything in my system. And now I'm like too scared. And I like stayed in this shell for so long. And probably like 2.5 years in, I had this realization that I was letting fear run way too much of my life. And I was like, you know what? No, I did not get sober to live a small life. Like, what's that people say all the time is like, God wants us to be happy, joyous, and free. And it's like, so let me actually experience what these words mean. And I've gone to so many shows now, and I've gone to multiple states in recovery. I didn't go to Canada. I went to West Virginia that weekend, you know? I was like, I'm going to go to the mountains, you know, deep in Appalachia. I had so much fun, and I loved it. And it was my first vacation by myself. And like, that was a huge deal. And, you know, like being able to just like have stories, you know, like news stories, not, you know, like running from the police stories, you know, like actual fun things that I can tell my nieces and nephews and not get banned from family dinner. You know, like it's, you know, I was so scared that I would stop having fun, but I never even knew what fun was until I got sober.
Yeah. Nothing was fun. You know, things seemed fun, but nothing was really fun because of the obsession with alcohol. For me, like, I would be drinking while I was getting ready, drinking on my way there, car barring, pre-gaming, all of the things. And then I remember I saw Kendrick Lamar in concert. I don't remember. I know I saw him because I have an old ticket stub. I can't tell you what happened.
He probably performed.
He performed. Yeah. He performed. But you know, I would go to all these events and things, but you know, because I once I start drinking, I gotta keep it in me. And so during the show, what am I doing? Leaving the crowd, pummeling my way through the crowd, going to the bar, or I'm late because I was drinking, or I don't show up at all. I had tickets to a 2 Chainz concert once, and I got so messed up, I convinced myself that there was going to be an explosion or something, and I stayed home. But this year, I went to my first concert sober. I took my son to see Connor Price. And I was like, that's just about to be so lame. Like, I'm about to go to this freaking Connor Price concert. Like, this is going to be super duper lame. And I'm like, it'd be kind of nice if I could drink. And I didn't. And I had so much fun at that concert. And just seeing my son be so happy and being present, because the obsession of like a drink wasn't, I was actually present, watching the show with him, taking pictures, taking videos. I had the best time ever. So yeah.
Oh yeah, I have no idea who Connor Price is.
He's like a kid's. He's from Canada.
Okay.
He's like an independent artist. He does like kids, like kid-friendly hip hop, but not lame. Yeah.
I gotcha.
I don't know how else to describe it.
Well, that's cool. No,
not lame, kid-friendly hip hop. Like he was like, all the parents in the crowd, sorry for this next one, and then it says the word hell.
Not the HE double hockey stick.
Yeah. It's like, it's like you might get a hell every once in a while, but it's, it's pretty good. It's rap. Plug in Connor Price.
Well, are there, so in recovery coaching, how long have you been doing this?
I have been doing it for a year and a half, and then I just switched to now I'm doing training for the CARES team.
Okay.
So now I'm on the training team that trains recovery coaches and certified peer support. So we train all the coaches for the state of Georgia now. I've been on that team for about like 2 months now.
Okay. And in the last year and a half, has there, other than the story you shared earlier, has there been any like full circle moments where someone like actually did stay in touch with you after they left the hospital, or you were able to, plug them in with a pathway to recovery that worked for them? Or...
So there was another time where there was this girl. So I saw her when she was in the hospital, and she had like whatever alcohol or drugs in her system. And when she reached out, when I had seen her in the hospital, I got her number. But the first thing I said to say, "Are you interested in recovery?" She's like, "I'm not quitting drinking." And I was like, the first thing. And I was like,
that's honest.
I was like, okay. I was like,
I'm not fucking living.
So I'm like, are you still interested in us talking on the phone and just doing like weekly check-ins? And I wasn't even planning to do like weekly check-ins. It was more so just getting her number and being able to build that contact. Mm-hmm. And so it turned into that though, where it was a weekly check-in every week. And, we'd literally just talk about her job, or she'd talk about this thing is going on at work, or she talked to me about different situations. Somebody did something at work that, made her like blow her top off. And it's like that was like for her, right? And it was moments like that where we just kept that like connection. And I believe when we had that moments like of being that weekly check-in, each time when we got on the phone, I felt like it was still that seed planted, like it was still leaving a seed planted where, maybe she gets to a point where she feels like she needs recovery, or she gets to a point where she feels like, oh, I know somebody that needs recovery. I know this guy who's in recovery. And then it reaches out to that person. Then they reach out to me. And it's more so like that instead of just thinking like automatically. Again, like we're being like the face of that. So
yeah, instead of being like, oh, well, you're not ready, and then like moving on to the next. Because
Yeah.
that's the attitude that I hope I will never take on. It's like oh, you're not ready, so I'm not even gonna like waste my time. Because you never know what's gonna hit. You never know when it's gonna hit somebody, and how it could impact them, or all of the people that they know. It's like because you impact one person and they have an impact on another person, and so on and so forth. So what kind of impact do you want to leave? And I think that's the great thing. Is like okay, like you don't want to stop drinking. Is there something you do want to stop? Like, do you want to stop doing that? Because for me, when I got sober, it was very much a progression. Because when I relapsed, I was no longer an alcoholic. I was just a drug addict, like I had moved up in the world and way more expensive. And so then when I got sober again, like the first thing I stopped doing was narcotics. I was like, okay, if I don't do narcotics, then I'll be fine. Like psychedelics, we're good. We can do those. Like drinking, we're fine. We can do those. And then I was like, no, I can't smoke it. it's fine. I just can't smoke it. And then I'm like, but I can still drink. And then, no, I can't. But it was that slow realization. I didn't have anyone like barreling me down, like, you need to stop all of it. Like it was just I'm just going to come in for a landing and I'm going to get there when I get there, hopefully, because that's like the scary part, right? Is like, hopefully, like the harm will stop. But you never really know. I wish we had crystal balls, could know what's happening in the future at all times. It'd be super helpful. But it was really helpful to not have, there wasn't somebody there to like give up on me, because it's like, okay, well, you're still doing these things, so I can't do anything to help you. And it's like, okay, but like I am improving. Like I'm just not improving the way you did. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like that's exactly like having somebody that's literally just there for you, and somebody that didn't give up on me. And I believe there are some people along my way who didn't give up on me. Like definitely like my parents and stuff, like them introducing me to it and just sending me to rehab. Like I was tripping acid and they found all my empty bottles and like they were just like, bro, you got to go to rehab. And it was like, and I think that's what it was, because it introduced me to 12-step meetings and introduced me to recovery. And I think that's what it is. Like that's what it was a key factor for, right? And I think like now it's like me and my parents are like, we're like best friends today. When like we were at odds ends, like most of our like my childhood, like me and my dad, like we didn't even get along. Like I always felt like he was a provider, he was a protector, but I didn't ever feel like he was really a dad to me. And like now it's like I can think about, there was a situation where me and my dad were talking and some lady walked into the room and she was just talking. She was just like, your son should be in college and he should be doing this and he should be doing that. And like my dad, he stopped her and he was just like, look, he was like, I'm not worried about my son anymore. And like that's the type of things that's kind of like happened in my recovery, is where like those people who didn't give up on me, and like those are the people that like I gravitate to, and I try and find some sort of like gratitude. And also one thing you said that kind of made me think about another thing, and it's like I meet people where they're at when they're like me, am I meeting people where they're at even when they aren't like me, like that's kind of like where it is. It's like find those people that when they're not like me, am I still finding that, I'm meeting them where they're at. So.
Yeah, because it's really easy when you have a lot in common with somebody to meet them where they're at. But, just because there's differences doesn't mean, they don't need help too. I think it's actually, has there been an encounter where like it was really difficult for you to meet someone where they were at, like you weren't sure how to relate with them?
I would say definitely like, cause you can meet somebody, let's say in the ER, and maybe they aren't. Actually, I'll put it this: there'd be like, this is like a situation that just popped up where somebody was a part of a group that like didn't really. How do I say this? I want to say this the right way. It's like,
you did say North Georgia Medical Center, and I know where that is.
I know, but more so like, how do I say this the right way? Is like I met somebody who was literally like not for me, right? And it was kind of like meeting that person where they're at was kind of like, because they were coming to me for help, and so I think it was putting aside kind of like what I had. Because what do I have? I have preconceived notions about things. And it's like putting those aside to say this person is changed today or is changing. And I think that's kind of like where it is today, is like realizing that somebody is changing today. And so I don't have a specific one, but it's just more so just that, like just meeting people and saying like maybe putting aside what I have thought. Because oh man. All right, yeah, I got this one. So there was this one guy, like I saw him in the hospital a bunch of times, and every time I'd see him, like, okay, I'm gonna see him again. And he came into the hospital at least 5 or 6 times within a year, and like it was like, oh man, I keep seeing him, and I got to a point where I was like, man, why does he keep coming in? Like, why isn't he getting this thing right? And I had to like step aside, regroup with my people, talk to God about it, and then kind of go back to the situation and be like, maybe this might be the time. And if it's not, I can't say when the next time is. Because then it goes to, what am I doing for, it's like the starfish story. Have you heard of the starfish story? So starfish story is like, there's 2 guys that are walking on a beach. And when they're walking on the beach, the one guy, one of the guys, he picks up a starfish and he throws it back into the water. And then they keep walking. And then the 2 guys keep walking. And then there's another starfish, and the one guy, same guy, picks up the starfish and throws it back into the water. And the second guy says to him, he says, "Hey man, why you throwing those back in? You can't save them all." And he was just like, but it made a difference for that one.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like where it is even like dealing with the doctors and the nurses, and because they see this person coming in and out of the hospital, that it's automatically like, oh man, this person is just an addict, like they're just going to keep coming in here again. And then it has to be to the point, because when do I know when the time is right now?
Yeah.
When do I know when this person is going to say, I'm choosing recovery right now?
Mm-hmm.
So I have to remain like open to that new experience each time.
Mm-hmm.
And like kind of get that new perspective change where I can say like, oh, this might be it. And just remain open and just remain open-minded to each time.
Yeah. No, I had a friend who was in and out of the hospital a lot. And I remember visiting her. It was actually on the day of my 2-year sober anniversary, and I spent the day in the hospital with her. 'Cause she, you know, had amnesia, had just had an overdose. And I remember, I will never forget the medical staff at that hospital, because they treated her so bad. And just sat there and watched it. I was like, I didn't even know if my friend was going to pull through. I didn't know if, you know, she would ever remember who we were, who she was, if she was going to be alive. Like, there was so much stuff, and these nurses were just treating her less than human. And it just made me so sad, because it's like, yeah, she's here a lot, but like, she's still a human, and she still, you know, deserves care and treatment and all sort of stuff. I'm like getting worked up. But it was just like, you know, it was like moments like that. Just in that moment, I remembered like there is a stigma. Because sometimes I forget, because I'm like, so much of my life is in the community, and, you know, and the people who know me either didn't know me before, you know, recovery, or, you know, they've seen past that now. And so they're, you know, I live most of my life without having the stigma of, you know, like, yeah, I'm an addict, I'm an alcoholic. But in that moment, I was just like, wow, that is, you know, it was like being accused of like, oh, are you bringing her drugs? Like, are you like, I'm like, are you kidding me right now? That's not what we're doing. I'm like, I'm trying to sit with her because she is unwell, and I'm scared I'm going to lose her and never be able to see her again. No, I'm not bringing her drugs. What do you mean? So the fact that there's coaches in the hospitals who can visit with people like us,
Yeah.
and you know, because maybe you know, the addict or alcoholic in the hospital needs to be reminded that they're human still.
Yes.
Yeah. Well said.
Anyway. Are there any other misconceptions about any other misconceptions about your line of work that you run into that you want to clear the air on?
I really would say to say any more misconceptions. I think there's like the whole thought that I had going into this, and like I told, like, let's say like old timers that I knew, and I knew them in the rooms. And, like, I told them about what I was doing, and it was, like, one of them, he was just like, that's unethical. And, like, he thought it was wrong. Reason he thought it was unethical is because he thought that as a recovery coach, I was taking people through the steps, and that I was doing that in a way to get people sober, and he thought I was charging them to take them through the steps. And I'm just like, I'm not taking them through the steps. I'm like, no, I'm showing up for this person, and it's like the same thing where it's like I'm showing up for this person just as it is, like just being that kindly, just friendly face, you know, and they're directing where they want to go with their life, you know, and I think that's really good. Is like what you said earlier, which is, you know, like what do you want to stop, you know, like that's kind of like where it is like what do you want to do? So if you don't want to quit drinking, you don't want to stop getting high, then what do you want to do with your life? Do you want to grow in this area? What do we want to do? And then let's figure out that goal. Maybe you want to go from drinking a 12-pack a night, and maybe you want to go down to drinking a 6-pack a night. Like, and it's like meeting that person where they're at, which was uncomfortable for me when I came into this, because I was so used to the same thing as in 12-step. And then you say stigma, which is like, it's taboo. It's taboo to get into recovery. It's taboo to say, I'm an alcoholic, I'm an addict. And it's like going into that and kind of just realizing that. So, yeah.
my when I got my 1 year, Sarah came, and she was talking with another girl, and my sister and my cousin were there, and the conversation opened up with like, and what was your DOC? Blah, blah, blah. And yours? And my sister and my cousin, we got in the car, and they were like, that is so weird. Like, they're like, we are not used to people just, they're like, because it is taboo. It's like, oh, yeah, I used to do, like, I used to, like, shoot, whatever. I don't want to, like, get graphic. But they were like that, I mean, sometimes when I'm talking in front of them and I say some things, I can tell they get, like a little jump. But, yeah, I mean, I think with that experience you had with that person, it shows that, some people that have been in recovery for a long time, they really don't know that, like, things have gotten more modern and there are different approaches and different ways. I had a sponsor who said when I was doing IOP, she was like, quit doing those groups. It's just to get insurance money. Those groups don't work. The only solution is through the 12 steps. That is the only solution. I don't agree with you going there. I don't agree with this. I don't agree. She was just anti, all that stuff. And, it's just, in my opinion, it's just like closed-minded. Or also, to me, she was closed-minded because it's like you're just assuming that it's an insurance scam. But, I think it's important that you're having those conversations with people and you're like, no. I mean, I've met people and they're like, how does it work to be taken through the steps? What does it mean to have a sponsor? And I'll explain it to them, like surface level. And they're like, that person does it for free. So like normies in the world, they think that we should be getting paid. And I'm like, no, this is all, it's foreign to them too. But yeah, I think it's important for you to be having those conversations. I think it's cool.
And I think the important part too about the story that you shared was as that happened, you reached out to other people too. You weren't just taking one person's word for it. You're like, what do other people think, though? Because I remember the book you texted me. You're like, is this right? Like, should I listen to her? Like, I was like, you know what? Because I love, too, how earlier you were talking about, like, don't tell me what to do. But there's been so many times you're like, will you please just tell me what I'm supposed to do?
Tell me what to do when I ask you to tell me what to do. But don't tell me what to do if I don't tell you to tell me what to do.
But no, but that is important because it's like if you do come across, in all aspects of life, we're going to run into people that we don't like. We're going to run into people that we don't agree with and people who don't like us or agree with us. But it, like the super cool thing about, especially being in recovery, is being connected to a community. So I don't have to make these decisions by myself. You don't have to make these decisions by yourself. None of us have to make these decisions by ourselves. And in my experience, when I make decision with my community backing me, a lot better decision than when I'm like, no, this is correct. I'm going to take, like one person's word for it of like, this is how it's supposed to be done, and then live a miserable existence for a brief period of time until I get the community back involved. But okay, we have a rapid fire for the end of the night to end it on a lighter note.
Yeah.
You ready?
I'm ready.
What is a song that defined your early recovery?
Ooh. A song that would define my early recovery is probably, what's that Adele song? That rolling in the deep. Yeah, man. Yo, we was listening to that at rehab.
I don't know. Rolling in the deep definitely described my usage. But, if you could guest star on any TV show, what would it be?
Guest star on any TV show.
Grey's Anatomy.
Supercell. Supercell. It's this show on Netflix, and they got like everybody's got like superpowers.
What? Supercell?
Supercell. Oh. Supercell. I'm telling you, it's good. It's a British TV show.
Oh, so it's
Supercell.
Supercell.
Okay. Sorry.
She forgot how to read for a second.
I got lost. I was thinking about Supercell. What's the one thing? What's the one thing you need to decompress after a long day?
After a long day, I think I would probably say like work out or something. I'd say work out. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Definitely go swimming. I do like swimming laps. So doing that's kind of like just gets me in my mode.
Nice.
So yeah.
I love being in water. Earlier I was doing an exercise with Christian and I pictured myself as Ariel. Anyway, what's your go-to hype phrase or mantra?
What were you guys doing?
It's an exercise. What's your go-to? What's your go-to hype phrase or mantra?
My go-to hype phrase or mantra is my friends all say it. We all say it. It's like, let's go. You know. So yeah,
Hell
that's
yeah.
it. Let's go.
Yep. Simple, to the point.
Yeah, to the point. Yeah.
Let's go.
Come on. Let's go.
Yeah.
If your life had a theme song right now, what would it be?
Had a theme song.
Right.
I don't know.
Now.
Right now, don't stop believing by Journey.
I love that. Like, you said that with your whole
Yeah.
chest.
Yeah.
Are you just a small town girl living in a lonely
Lonely
world? Better catch that midnight train.
If you could teleport anywhere right this second, where are you going?
I want to go to
I wanna
Hawaii.
go.
So you can be in their water.
I wanna be where their people are. You know, like Ariel from the Little.
Oh,
I'm
not-
done with the Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
Okay. God. Advice to someone young who doesn't believe that they have a shot at recovery because they're too young.
I think so. For somebody coming into recovery young, I would definitely say I've had so much more fun sober than I ever did, like drinking and like in my active addiction. And I think that's kind of like where it is. Is like there's so much more life. I didn't believe I'd be exactly where I am today. I didn't think I'd have a career. I didn't have all these things. And then on top of that, like those are all cool, all the things I've been able to do. But the biggest thing has probably been the people that I've been able to meet along the way and like this relationship I built with God. And I think that's kind of like where it is. And so I want to say there's so much fun, there's so much connection, and your life is just getting started.
Oh, yeah.
That was beautiful. All right. Derek, where can the audience find you?
You can find me on Facebook at Derek Little II, or you can reach out to, if you would like to become a CARES for the Georgia Council for Recovery, you can get certified as a CARES. You can go to the Georgia Council for Recovery website, and you can be able to sign up and attend the RCO workshop, and we'll be able to, get you in the process of moving there. So,
Sweet. Awesome.
Hell yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming. This has been awesome. All right, check out the Most High Media app in the description box below on YouTube, where you will find this episode and previous episodes, as well as documentaries and more recovery-based original content. Find Most High Media on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, and make sure to like, subscribe, follow, comment, poke, etc. This show is made possible from the Georgia Opioid Crisis Abatement Trust. Thank you, and thank you to our donors and sponsors. This has been the Most High Show.